Okay, hey everyone. So, first, thank you for your patience and thank you for understanding. I had to cancel class today because I have not one but two sick children at home. So, I had to return and watch them. But because of time constraints, I didn't want to make significant adjustments to our schedule. So, what I want to do, I won't change anything on the schedule or syllabus. Everything that I have scheduled for Thursday, just prepare for that. And as a supplement, because we are missing today, I wanted to take a few minutes, record this video, and discuss the compare and contrast essay. Now, the module is in the content tab along with the prompt. So I would encourage you, while I won't read directly from the prompt, I would encourage you to follow as I discuss all of this. And definitely, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. If you wanted to save them until Thursday, that's fine. But I totally understand if you wanted to go ahead and do the work of thinking about a possible topic. If you have a question, you may want to hear me address it before you move forward. But okay, compare and contrast. So the basic idea, and this is a different pattern of development than the previous two: narrative, description, and definition and classification. When you write a compare and contrast essay, you select a topic, and that's a term I'll use, but I'll explain it, offer examples, etc. You select a topic, and then at minimum, you select two subjects that fall within that topic, and you do the work of identifying specific similarities and differences. And the overarching goal, like the previous two essays, is to do all of this in the service of developing and articulating a thesis statement. So, like the previous two essays, you need a thesis statement here. It is not enough for you to simply do the work of comparing and contrasting these two different subjects. All of this compare and contrast work should drive toward the support and the articulation of, again, a thesis statement, which is to say an argumentative assertion, a larger point, a stake you or a claim that you want to stake. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, I wanted to spend a few minutes discussing selecting a topic because I think this is incredibly important. Again, like everything you write, everything we have written thus far, everything you hope to write in the future, selecting a good and an appropriate topic is extremely important. So I use an example on the prompt, and I'll go ahead and just explain it. Imagine my topic were or was or is running shoe brands. Okay, so that's my topic, running shoe brands. And I want to compare and contrast two subjects, Nike and Puma. Now, the first thing you'll notice, of course, you need at least two subjects to do compare and contrast work. However, because of the size and the scope of the essay that I want you to write, you'll see on the prompt that I want, again, 800 words. Typically, students write about 1,000. It would probably be a bad idea for you to choose more than two subjects. Now, if you wanted to write, or if I asked you to write a much longer essay, you would probably want to choose more subjects. So this is one of those times where, again, the content of the essay itself, it's heavily dictated and determined by the assignment requirements, parameters, what I, as your professor, wants. So choose no more than two subjects, okay? And you would obviously want to choose subjects that are similar enough that to your reader, it doesn't feel like it's an unfair comparison. So just to give you an example, I want you to imagine I wanted to write about let us say sandwich lunch options. Okay, so that's my topic, sandwich lunch options. And the two subjects that I have chosen, one is let us say a veggie sub from Subway, and the other one is a big beef and cheddar with extra cheddar, right? Now, I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't have a big beef and cheddar for lunch. It's fun to say. It's silly. But I think because of the topic that I've selected, which is a healthier lunch option, I think someone might, even just reading the title, arrive at this conclusion that, hey, this seems like something of an unfair comparison. So as you're thinking about framing your essay and your topic, try to do so in a way that's fair. Try to do so in a way that doesn't seem or feel to a reader like you've baked into your premise basically your thesis and your larger argumentative claim. You want, in theory, your comparison to be fair. And that's just something to keep in mind when choosing a topic. How can I not only choose a topic, but also how can I approach this compare and contrast analysis in a way that feels fair and doesn't feel like a foregone conclusion, if that makes sense. Something else to think about. Definitely consider what matters to you because, again, I don't want you to do research. Now, we can discuss ways that you can use Google, for example, to just clarify, prices, for example. Maybe that's something that's important to you if, for example, you wanted to write this hypothetical essay about running shoes. But aside from doing that kind of just like Googling, don't think you need to do research. Again, the research essay, it is coming. For this, I want you to focus on your experiences, what you know, etc. And something else to think about, again, with choosing not only the topic, the different subjects, and the points, try to select points that have some kind of larger coherency. Like I would argue, for example, maybe if the question you want to ask or consider is which running shoe brand is the best, maybe you want to think of a word like best as most visually appealing or most aesthetically appealing. Maybe it's the aesthetics that matter more than performance. You would probably choose a different set of points than if all that mattered was, for example, price and perhaps affordability and durability, right? So again, not only when choosing your topic, your subjects, but also the different points you want to make, don't just select random, seemingly incoherent, non-agreeable points. You would want them to have a larger kind of, again, conceptual coherency. And the final thing to think about, and this is more when choosing a topic, one of the reasons why students often say to me that they really like writing the compare and contrast essay is because comparison and contrast is something that feels and is to many people quite natural. We do the work, whether we know it or not, of comparing and contrasting almost every moment of every day. Any choices we make, whether we're conscious of it or not, we've probably used or indulged in the compare and contrast pattern. So part of what makes this essay a bit easier for some students is just how natural compare and contrast is. But also think of yourself perhaps as a consumer. You could easily write, as the example on the prompt suggests, you could easily write about a consumer or a consumable good, and that's completely acceptable. Now, you do not need to do this. If you think about, for example, the essay I asked you to read today, maybe you could think of education as a consumer good, but I don't think we necessarily think of it as a consumer good in the same way that we think of like phones or televisions or kitchen appliances or automobiles, right? So again, don't think you need to do that, but it's just something to consider. That's an option, that's a possibility. The final thing that I wanted to say, especially when thinking about the language that I have on the prompt, we'll spend a bit of time on Thursday discussing outlining strategies, but I've already provided some of that material on D2L. If you wanted to go ahead and read it, it should be right below the prompt itself. And I will also say there's language on the prompt about the counter-argumentative strategy. That's not something that I want to describe here, but it is something that I intend to discuss either on Thursday or at some point early next week. So quickly, just in summary, because again, I wanted to keep this at 10 minutes if possible. Our current essay, the essay that I want you to write next, is a compare and contrast essay. The work you do when you write a compare and contrast essay, you select a topic, you choose for this essay 2 subjects, and you try to find distinct similarities and differences between the two. And again, your goal ultimately is to do this compare and contrast work in an attempt to support and develop a thesis statement, which again is something you need. When thinking about a possible topic, you could certainly think of yourself as a consumer and choose a consumer or a consumable good, like the example that I provide on the prompt itself. And also, again, when choosing your subjects, try to be fair. The last thing you want is for your essay to feel like something of a foregone conclusion. The last thing you want is for your reader to think after just, my goodness, maybe reading the title, well, I don't need to read this. I think I already know the answer, which is to say, I already know what the thesis statement is. Finally, what is finally? Oh, thesis statements. I wanted to talk about this as well. You could certainly imagine a thesis statement, and this would be completely acceptable. Your thesis would be, for example, A is better than B for these reasons. That is certainly an argument. That is certainly a thesis statement. Or if you wanted to try something a little more dynamic, something a little more creative, that's possible too. Again, if you think about the reading for today, the point that Laird makes is not traditional education is better than online education. It's not A is better than B for these reasons. The point she really makes is despite how perhaps colleges, administrators, etc., want to think about and frame online education, it is fundamentally different because of the certain assumptions and the behavioral assumptions that people have when they interact on the internet. So that is, again, a dramatically different kind of thesis statement than A is better than B. But I don't want you to think that having a thesis statement where you ostensibly say A is better than B is a problem, because it's not. That's an acceptable way to think about a thesis statement for a compare and contrast essay. The final thing I want you to think, and I'll reiterate this point quite often, the last thing you want is for your essay to feel like all you really have to say is, well, reader A, you choose, right? That is not a meaningful way to write a compare and contrast essay. So definitely avoid using that kind of language. That's, I suppose, implied your reader will choose. If they think you're persuasive, hey, they might accept your thesis. If they don't think you're persuasive, then they won't. So just avoid that kind of framing as well, the kind of like you choose framing that you often see, I suppose, with a lot of like YouTube videos. So definitely avoid that. Okay. Again, I'm sure there's more that I would want to say that I've forgotten to say, but I'll certainly attempt to address all of that on Thursday. And again, if you have questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. And thank you again for your patience today. My apologies again for canceling class. Hopefully, none of you came all the way to campus before you saw my announcement. So, okay, have a nice day, and I'll see you on Thursday.